Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. There's an emerging threat to voters. It's fake images and video messages created with artificial intelligence. State and federal officials are scrambling to prepare themselves as election season heats up, trying to keep AI-generated misinformation from tricking voters. WRAL state government reporter Will Doran spoke with experts and lawmakers about it, and he joins us now. Will, welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Well, artificial intelligence is this amazing and useful tool, but in the past few election cycles, we've started to see it used as a weapon. What does that look like?
It's looked like basically anything you could imagine. I mean, there's, fake videos that are out there. You can fake an audio of someone. You can make up a text and, say you can get, Jack Hagel's voice and make it sound like you're saying something that you've never said before. You can also take something that you have said, maybe you wrote it down somewhere, you said it somewhere, and transpose that onto a video. There's all sorts of ways to mess with audio and video. There's robocalls. You can mess with images. We had previously reported here that the Ron DeSantis campaign and also a super PAC supporting him had kind of really leaned into AI. Back in 2022, 2023, they had done things like, make AI-generated photos of Trump hugging Anthony Fauci to kind of hit Trump over, some of his COVID policies when he was president. So, and those are just a few examples. I mean, really, anything you can think of, you can use AI to do. And like you said, sometimes that can be used for good, but as we know, politics can often get dirty, and it can be used for bad too.
Now, there is this big debate over how or even if to regulate it. What are the arguments there?
Yeah, so there are some people who very much want this to be regulated and say, we are really in this kind of brave new world where we need laws that are cracking down on these bad actors. And, it could be a case where, say it's, already against the law to spread misinformation about elections, but you could do something like say, okay, you get an even worse penalty if you do it using AI, kind of, like it's against the law to rob somebody, but you get an even worse penalty if you use a gun to rob somebody. There's other people who say that it should not be regulated at all, that it would be an infringement on free speech. And then probably the most common view we've seen from leaders so far is just kind of almost a sense of apathy, saying, well, we've already got, defamation laws and things like that, and this is just so new, we don't really know what it is. Let's just kind of pump the brakes and hold off on doing anything for right now.
So in the absence of regulation, what are elections officials doing, federal government, companies? What are they doing to prepare?
So elections officials are really ringing some alarm bells on this. The Department of Homeland Security and its cybersecurity branch, which does a lot of kind of election security stuff for the federal government, sent out this warning to North Carolina and every other state earlier this year, multiple pages long. Here are all the different ways that, both, foreign and domestic bad actors can use AI to influence elections. Y'all need to be prepared for this. I've spoken with state elections officials here in North Carolina who have been looking at that sheet and have been working. They've been doing exercises with their staff to kind of red team some of these issues and prepare for it. They've been meeting with law enforcement to kind of compare notes on, what they've been seeing, how they might react should some of this, really start to be a problem as the election heats up. So, the people who kind of run the bureaucracy of elections are really leaning into this and getting prepared for it. At the federal government, Congress hasn't done anything in terms of passing a law, but we have seen, for instance, the FCC recently passed kind of an agency rule cracking down on robocalls that can use AI to spread misinformation, whether that's about elections or anything else. And then, some social media companies are also, doing a little bit of self-regulation, nothing too extreme, but basically just saying, hey, if you're going to put an AI-created video up on YouTube, if you're going to put an AI-created, photo up on Instagram, you have to at least flag that AI was used to do it, and you can't just trick people.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear about what other states are doing to combat AI-generated misinformation. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL state government reporter Will Doran about the use of artificial intelligence in political messaging. Will, you report that the use of AI-generated images and voices isn't just appearing in campaign ads. Where else is this showing up?
Yeah, so it can be used obviously in campaigns, but I think a real concern for elections officials is that it will be used to spread misinformation about just the election in general. I spoke with Josh Lawson, who's a think tanker now, but he's the former top lawyer for the North Carolina State Board of Elections, and he said that they're basically the technology is so good and so bespoke was the word that he used, that you can create a robocall that will go out to you or me and will know exactly what our precinct is that we're registered to vote for. So it could, you could get a call on election day that sounds like a real human voice with a spoofed phone number that looks like it's coming from your area code that says, hey, your polling place is shut down because there's violence at the polls or there's a flood or something like that. You need to go vote somewhere else. And then, of course, that's not true. If you try to go vote somewhere else, you might not be allowed to vote. And so there's just, worries that there's things like that that could really just sow chaos into elections. And, people just need to be prepared to, if you hear something that sounds, extreme, double check it and, find a trusted source of information.
How is AI showing up in North Carolina races this year?
So this year we have seen probably the biggest example so far, which we wrote about here at WRAL, is this thing called the Mark Rottenson political campaign. This is kind of a spoof campaign making fun of Mark Robinson, the Republican nominee for governor, and it uses AI to fake his voice, and it claims to have written this book that didn't actually write, and has all these kind of clips from the audiobook that are just AI generated fake clips of this guy that's essentially Mark Robinson saying these just completely outlandish things. And I spoke with the guy who's buying it, who's a major Democratic donor from here in Raleigh, and he said, look, this is just a joke. This is not the same as using AI to trick people. And, I will say, if you go to the website, it does clearly say on the website, this is a satire, this is not real, and, has a photo of Mark Robinson and a gigantic oversized mustache. So I don't think, people are going to fall for it for the most part, but they might. And actually, Robinson's Democratic opponent was pretty opposed to this. After we wrote about it, his campaign reached out to me and said, hey, we want to make it clear that we are not okay with using AI for this. And that's something that I think actually Josh Stein, that's Attorney General Josh Stein, that his campaign and his office in the Department of Justice are kind of on the same page.
Now, you reported that some states have started to put some regulations around this. What are they doing?
So most states haven't really done anything to tackle AI in elections specifically. Most states do have laws, including here in North Carolina, about using AI or deep fakes in general, to make fake images of people and spread them for, defamatory purposes. Most states have already acted to kind of crack down on that, but there's only about 5 or 6 states that have done, election specific laws. And that would be kind of like what I mentioned earlier, say, okay, it's already against the law to purposefully spread misinformation about an election. But if you use AI to do it, you get an even worse punishment.
Is there any chance that North Carolina will do something more than what it already has on the books?
Pretty low chance. I spoke last month with House Speaker Tim Moore about this, and he said, it is scary. Like, AI is a potentially really dangerous tool for elections, but he said he thinks that, the laws that we have here on the books already are enough to stop it. He noted, of course, that, if something emerges that they feel they need to address, they could, obviously, but we should note that, the legislature passed really wide-ranging elections laws last year, half a dozen major changes to how we operate elections here in North Carolina leading up to 2024. AI wasn't any part of any of those efforts, so it seems to be a pretty low priority for the state legislature here.
So with the election less than 8 months away, what can regular voters do to make sure that they're not being duped by some AI-generated message or robocall, or what are elections officials recommending to people?
Yeah, so the main thing is just to be vigilant about it. Say that you get a scary sounding robocall, that there are problems with the election, you should confirm that with your county elections board or the state elections board, some, official source. If you see a video going viral about, a candidate seeming to say some crazy thing, double check with, the news to make sure that that's actually real. I'll give a pitch for us, here at WRAL. We've got a partnership with PolitiFact North Carolina, which does a lot of great fact checking and, has looked into AI issues like this before. There are sources out there, whether it's us in the media or people who work, for the government for elections, who are, working to make sure that people are getting all of the correct information.
Well, this is going to keep us on our toes going into November. Thanks, Will.
It's going to be busy.
That's WRAL State Government reporter Will Doran. For his in-depth reporting on the fight against AI trickery in political messaging, visit the NC Capital section of WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.